Welcome to the Fourth Branch program, the place for common sense. Today is Tuesday, July 9, 2019. I am MD. I hope you had a great night. Fresh to start a brand new day. For as long as we can remember, there has been what we call here in this country a great divide, or a divide, a big divide, depending on whom you're talking to. The expression may vary a little bit, but the gist of it is there has been a big divide in the country. But usually it is used in reference to fight between Democrats and Republicans. Here at the Fourth Branch, in our research, we found out that the Republican constituent did not use to fight among themselves because they understand that, well, everything that happened in the country impacts everybody. As such, they're used to have some sort of common understanding that we are on the same boat and things have to be done to improve the situation. But unfortunately, politicians have found a way to prevent this type of a cordial understanding, common understanding from really taking roots. It's not good for politicians. Think about it. If I can unite with my neighbor wherever he or she happen to stand on any issue, then politicians have a problem. As such, they have worked tirelessly to make certain that constituents do not unite on anything. It is a process that, if you've been watching the country, that's been ongoing. Now it has gotten worse, but that's always been the case. Democrats disagree with Republicans and vice versa. Usually on issues, when you look at the root of the problem, and when you look at the most important aspect of the problem, there is really no disagreement between Democrats and Republicans. But, well, if you watch the news, you listen to politicians, there is a big divide. Now, I said politicians have created that big divide because it helps to keep them in office. Yesterday, we started this particular topic, and every day we will show you what politicians have been doing to keep constituents divided back to back, always fighting, because, well, it benefits the politician. It doesn't benefit the country. It doesn't benefit the constituent. Who cares? Politicians have their job, keep their job. So this topic is exclusively to explain, to expose rather, what the politicians have been doing. Now today, if you watch the argument, the state of affairs, no matter what Democrats do, is bad. And Republicans fight against it. But if you remove the other side, the political party, from the argument and start asking questions, then you find out, well, you do agree with what's being done, except that you have a problem when it's being done by a Democrat. That's for Republicans. Democrats, on the other hand, to their credit, yes, sometimes they disagree with Republicans, but a lot of time they understand this is beneficial for the constituent and join the Republican. The opposite, the other way, is almost always impossible to happen. So this topic is not here to tell you to become a Democrat or to turn into a Republican, but rather to expose what your politician, your representative have been doing and how they have manipulated you, they have deceived you in order to fight with the other constituent as such get nothing done in the country, but your representative get to keep their job because you're so upset against the other side, you cannot possibly see any reason for you to vote the other side in office. And that is the essence of the big divide. Give us 60 seconds, we will give you the world.
Live from New York City at the top of the hour, every weekday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The Fourth Branch presents discussions, debates, commentaries on social, political issues, current events, sports, entertainment, religion, education, science, and every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. for a full presentation on controversial issues such as abortion, homosexuality, war on blacks. Are Republicans dumber than Democrats? Information which might irritate you, make you cry, make you laugh, but above all, will make you smarter. Join us every time. It is the right thing to do. It is the only way to keep your sanity in a world of chaos, hypocrisy, immorality, and deception. Welcome to Common Sense.
If you joined us before, thank you for your participation. It makes the journey a tad lighter, more bearable. If you join us for the first time, welcome to the Fourth Branch program, the place for common sense. The Fourth Branch program is not associated with any political party, and we at the Fourth Branch do not have any political agenda or aspiration. Our ultimate objective is to perfect the union. In order to do so, we have to remove the biggest obstacle of all, ignorance. JFK said that the ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of us all. Such an important exercise to remove the ignorance in the equation. Now, before we continue with what we have been doing for the past few weeks, mainly reading the Mueller report. As you might know, yesterday we started volume 2 of the Mueller report, and we will continue to read the report without adding or subtracting from it. But before we go and continue with the reading of volume 2, which is, by the way, the case that Robert Mueller made in order to prove that Donald Trump committed a crime, obstruction of justice. Now, it is also a good opportunity to tell you that on July 17, 2019, Robert Mueller will be on Capitol Hill to talk about what else? The report. Now, that guy, Eric Swalwell, he was a candidate for the presidency of the United States, a Democrat, of course. You may recall that there is an army of Democrats vying for the office of the presidency. And he was one of such individuals. In fact, Eric Swalwell didn't join early. He joined, I believe, on April 9th, if I'm not mistaken, 2019. So after looking at how much traction or non-traction he's getting, he decided to drop very early. Eric Swalwell is a Democrat representative for the 15th District of California. So as quickly as Eric joined, Eric decided to drop out because, well, the field is crowded. Now we here at the Forefront, you may recall that we always take the lead by providing you with whom is going to stick around, whom are going to fall, and of course this is the first one that's just exiting graciously. Now for the past 3 presidential elections, we have been accurately predicted who would be the nominee and who would be the president, who would become the president. And so far, our record is immaculate. Yes, you heard correctly. Even in the grand scheme of things, as to how people thought Hillary Clinton was going to win the presidency of the United States, I personally wanted Hillary Clinton to win. But, as I always mention in this program, our preferences do not cloud our judgment. So we know, at least that's what we thought at that time, that without Bernie Sanders as running mate, there was no chance for Hillary Clinton to clinch the presidency of the United States in 2016. Now, a lot of other politicians disagree with that assessment, but we would never know, would we? So again, we will come back to this year to tell you who is going to be the next president of the United States. And you heard correctly, because I said the next president of the United States. Now, a lot of party, politicians, fan supporters, they all, especially on the Republican side, salivating over the idea that Donald Trump will be reelected. Now, one thing we already made clear, and this is not something we say lightly, and this is not something we some rabbit we pull out of a hat. It is something we spend time, we deliberated, we use data, and we kind of create a model and fast forward those data and extrapolate to come to our conclusion. And that's why we have been accurate about our prediction. And what we already predicted is Donald Trump will not be reelected. Now we haven't come to the conclusion who in the Democrat side will be the nominee, who will be the president. Of course, whoever is the nominee will be the president, because our model already tells us unequivocally that Donald Trump, no matter what kind of noise you hear, no matter how different you hear, the poll has been changing, Donald Trump is increasing in poll and all that. I know Republicans are salivating over the idea, and Democrats are anxious about that prospect. I don't fall in either category. As I mentioned, we have preferences, but we do not let our preferences cloud our judgment. So for the past, as a matter of fact, since George W. Bush, we've been predicting accurately who will be the next president of the United States. In fact, in 2016 was the first time we decided to participate in the primaries, meaning analyzing data in order to say who is going to stick around, who is not. But prior to that, we were simply looking at data for the general election. So this year again, we will take a look at the primaries and see who is going to stick around, who is not. But nevertheless, for those Democrats who are worrying that Donald Trump may be elected, I heard that conversation many times. Democrats who are very anxious, who think Donald Trump may become, may get reelected, and so on and so forth. And on the Republican side, there is this drumbeat, there is this salivation over Donald Trump being reelected. I'm here to tell you unequivocally that Donald J. Trump, the 45th president of the United States, will not be reelected in 2020. No matter what noise you hear, no matter how many times you hear pundits say that can happen, there is a chance, it's baloney. Donald Trump will not be reelected president of the United States. Now, the GOP view. I'm going to read for you a number of views by fellow Republicans. And I said that because every time that I come to do this program, my fellow Republicans always have a number of things to say about I'm a damn liberal, I talk like a liberal, and so on and so forth. So it becomes as if there are two countries. If the country is doing bad, it's only the damn liberal that's going to suffer. Or if the country is doing good, it's only the damn liberal that's taking advantage of it. We are on the same boat. Now, we may have divergent opinion, as it is probably obvious that if you're a Republican, what I'm saying now, you may quip, you may shrug, you may think that I don't know what I'm talking about. So it's okay. This is divergent opinion, and you are entitled to that. So am I. But when it comes to the affairs of the country, to the health of the country, there is no Democrat or Republican, because whatever happened to the United States of America happened to everyone. The current standing of America on the world stage does not just affect Donald Trump, it affects Americans. Look at what the UK ambassador just said the other day. And you think he's alone? Of course not, he's not alone. Now, in case you didn't know, the United States just asked Germany to increase the number of soldiers in Syria in order for US to draw down. Germany said no. And I guarantee you, with any other president, any other US president negotiating with Germany, that would have happened. So our standing on the world stage is at its time low, at its low point. So it's not an individual or a party that suffers, it's the whole country. But I didn't say that to say that's the reason Donald Trump will not be elected, because the international community doesn't have any say over Donald Trump election or re-election. Now, for those of you who are looking to understand why the research we have made, why the model we have created gave us such great confidence, I strongly urge you to go to thepeoplebranch.org, and there you'll find many articles, and we wrote a 4-part article under the title, The Reason Donald Trump Will Not Be Reelected in 2020. I believe that's the title of the 4-part article. So do not skim over it, read it completely so that you can have a good understanding as to why we're able to come to that conclusion. Now, it is not just me or just the Democrat or just the independent who's seen that the country, despite this has a good economy, we cannot wrap our brain around the fact that you have a president that none of those people, Republican that is, who support him, would dare use him as a role model for their children or their grandchildren. Yes, you heard correctly. A number of my fellow Republicans that I talked to, I conversed with, I interviewed, would not use Donald Trump as a role model for their children and their grandchildren. And the question I always ask, why? Because we're talking about the President of the United States, someone who has that much power, who is that elevated in status Why not? Of course, you already know the answer. So if you find that individual that's leading the country cannot be used as a role model for your children, your grandchildren, and you still think that person is good to stay in the Oval Office and lead that country, you're not just stupid, you're not just ignorant, you are foolish, ridiculous even. Now here's what some of your fellow Republicans are saying, because I suspect when something is said by anybody, no matter who that person is, if it's not flattery for Trump, if it's not positive for Trump, if it's not something that elevates Trump, all the Trump supporters see that individual as a damn liberal. They accuse Jim Comey, they accuse Peter Strzok, they accuse even, hold your horse, Robert Mueller. So we use to the idea of Republican who support Trump not having anything better to hang their hat on, so they accuse everybody of presenting to them the truth. So they divorce with the idea of truth, because to them whatever Donald Trump says, that's what they go by. So the idea of truth, the idea of logic doesn't matter to those individuals. But fortunately, I guess I don't know if the word is that even exists in the Republican circle, there are a few Republicans who are speaking out, who actually sometimes their language, their position are much harsher than I personally would have taken, because they're able to see what exactly that individual, Donald Trump, we call Sleazy Don, hashtag Sleazy Don. That's a movement we started a while back, but it ought to be to become really the way to refer to Donald Trump. Sleazy Don. Hashtag Sleazy Don should become the most popular hashtag in the history of hashtag. Sleazy Don has done so many bad things that even conscientious Republican, patriot Republican are seeing not only through, but they're speaking out. Now I'm going to read a few of what those individuals have said, but if you want the link, most of those things are individuals who are providing their views on some social venues. These I'm about to read to you happen to be on Quora, and I will provide you the name of the individual as well who wrote about it, because they're not hiding behind anonymous to write those things. So here we go. Michael Cunningham is retired and is a freelance philanthropist, and here's what he said. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, I'm just reading a few things for you. I am a retired veteran and was a lifelong Republican. But Trump will replace anywhere they say Trump with Sleazy Don. But Sleazy Don is beyond disgusting, and it is the last straw. I am ashamed I wasted my life serving this country. Anyone who cannot see the truth is literally blind. Michael Cunningham is much too kind. Republicans are controlled nowadays with fear, racism, paranoia, false patriotism, and fascism. That's Michael Cunningham. If you want to read the whole thing, you can read it on Quora. Now he's Habib Fani, a political animal. That's how he referred to himself. He's a physician, and he called himself an all-around nerd. He said, for me, it is because I'm not a modern Republican. I would have voted for Benjamin Harrison if I'd been allowed. I'd probably would have voted for Theodore Roosevelt in 1904. But things get murkier after that. The Republican Party becomes more and more the party of big business, and I don't recognize myself in its view. Again, the remaining part of Habib Fani can be found. All those people that I'm reading here are Republicans. Is Mimi Bertrand? She said, same reason here. I did not vote for him in 2016. He has no individual achievement or accomplishment meriting the position of purchase. All his business ventures have been on the coattail of others, like his fathers and investors. And she went on to explain that Mr. Sleazy Don has lost at least $1 billion as reported in the media. And there is really a ton of those opinion provided by individuals on social media, and those are Republicans. But for any Republican who support and continue to support Donald Trump, they consider any Republican who do so as Democrat, as liberal, as they just shrug it off. And yet, and this is where it's baffling, if you ask them if they would consider Donald Trump as a role model for their children and their grandchildren, they would say no. So which means they know Donald Trump is a scumbag. They know that, because who would not be proud? Who would not be proud to use the individual you support, you voted for, and you continue to support? Who would not be proud to tell your children and your grandchildren, I want you to use so-and-so as your role model growing up? Now, if you find yourself in that predicament, I don't think you need anybody to convince you that you're doing the wrong thing, you're supporting the wrong person, and it is detrimental to the United States of America. But most of all, you are not a patriot. If you are a patriot, you cannot not be outraged, because this is not a matter of being Democrat or being Republican, because the very reason that our democracy survives is because of that very structure of our government. The minute that you don't have any oversight, then at that point, the idea of democracy in the United States of America ceases to exist. So if you are a Republican and you think it's okay, then you too are no patriot. There is no other word of saying it. No matter what you hear people saying, trying to sugarcoat, trying to go around to explain it to you, that's all it means. If you are okay with what is currently going on with Donald Trump, with the Republican Party, you categorically are not a patriot. And no matter what you think of yourself, you are not a patriot. Because a patriot is someone who would give up, who would make sacrifice sometimes of his or her own life, let alone sacrifice a political party in order to preserve the democracy, in order to preserve the Constitution, in order to preserve the rule of law. So if you cannot do that, don't talk to anyone about being patriot, because you are no patriot. welcome back. We are going to continue with reading of the Mueller report. We are now reading volume 2, which addresses the obstruction of justice part of the investigation. As we mentioned several times, that Robert Mueller, being the architect of the report and also speaking a language that's sometimes confusing to the rest of us, will be on Capitol Hill on July 17, and the main reason I suppose that the Democrats want him is so that he can explain to the American people that what William Barr, Attorney General of the country, has been doing is detrimental to the fabric of our society. William Barr is the Attorney General, and his job is to make sure that everyone abide by the rule of law. But instead, as head of the Justice Department, he's become a pawn in the Trump administration and literally destroying the fabric of our society. Now, Robert Mueller, who spent 2 years investigating, has said in no uncertain term that Donald Trump has committed a crime, obstruction of justice. He did not exonerate Donald Trump. And he explained in this document that we're reading that the reason he could not come to a definitive conclusion, not because there was no proof, but because the Department of Justice already set guidelines that you cannot indict a sitting president. As such, Robert Mueller avoided to even bother doing that. But he laid out all the facts for all of us to see in black and white that Donald J. Trump, Sleazy Don, committed obstruction of justice.
The order appointing me special counsel authorized us to investigate actions that could obstruct the investigation. And we conducted that investigation, and we kept the office of the acting attorney general apprised of the progress of our work. And as set forth in the report, after that investigation, if we had had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so.
If we had confidence that the president did not commit a crime, I don't know if you, how is your English? If we had confidence that the president did not commit a crime, we would have said so. If we had confidence the president did not commit a crime, we would have said so. What does that mean to you in English?
The order appointing me special counsel authorized us to investigate actions that could obstruct the investigation. And we conducted that investigation, and we kept the office of the acting attorney general apprised of the progress of our work. And as set forth in the report, after that investigation, if we had had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so.
as set forth in the report. If we had confidence that the president did not commit a crime, we would have said so. First, that means we didn't. It's not in the report, and we didn't say so. Executive summary to Volume 2. Our obstruction of justice inquiry focused on a series of actions by the president that related to the Russian interference investigation, including the president's conduct towards the law enforcement officials overseeing the investigation and the witnesses to relevant events. Factual result of the obstruction of justice, of the obstruction investigation. The key issues and events we examine include the following: the campaign response to reports about Russian support for Trump. During the 2016 presidential campaign, question arose about the Russian government's apparent support for candidate Trump after WikiLeaks released politically damaging Democratic Party emails that were reported to have been hacked by Russia. Trump publicly expressed skepticism that Russia was responsible for the hacks, at the same time that he and other campaign officials privately sought information about any further planned WikiLeaks releases. Trump also denied having any business in or connection to Russia, even though as late as June 2016, the Trump organization had been pursuing a licensing deal for a skyscraper to be built in Russia called Trump Tower Moscow. After the election, the president expressed concern to advisors that reports of Russia's election interference might lead the public to question the legitimacy of his election. Conduct involving FBI Director Comey and Michael Flynn. In mid-January 2017, incoming National Security Advisor Michael Flynn falsely denied to the Vice President, other administration official, and FBI agent that he had talked to Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak about Russia's response to U.S. sanctions on Russia for its election interference. On January 27, the day after the president was told that Flynn had lied to the vice president and had made similar statement to the FBI, the president invited FBI Director Comey to a private dinner at the White House and told Comey that he needed loyalty. On February 14, the day after the president requested Flynn's resignation, the president told an outside advisor, quote, "Now that we fired Flynn, the Russia thing is over," end of quote. The advisor disagreed and said the investigation would continue. Later that afternoon, the president cleared the Oval Office to have a one-on-one meeting with Comey. Referring to the FBI investigation of Flynn, the president said, quote, "I hope you can see your way clear to letting this go, to letting Flynn go. He's a good guy. I hope you can let this go," end of quote. Shortly after requesting Flynn's resignation and speaking privately to Comey, the president sought to have Deputy National Security Advisor Katie McFarland draft an internal letter stating that the president had not directed Flynn to discuss sanctions with Kislyak. McFarland declined because she did not know whether that was true, and a White House counsel office attorney thought that the request would look likely a quid pro quo for an ambassadorship she had been offered. the president's reaction to the continuing Russia investigation. In February 2017, Attorney General Jeff Sessions began to assess whether he had to recuse himself from campaign-related investigation because of his role in the Trump campaign. In early March, the president told the White House counsel Don McGahn to stop Sessions from recusing. And after Sessions announced his recusal on March 2nd, the president expressed anger at the decision and told advisor that he should have an attorney general who would protect him. That weekend, the president took Sessions aside at an event and urged him to, quote, unrecuse. Later in March, Comey publicly disclosed at a congressional hearing that the FBI was investigating, quote, the Russian government's effort to interfere in the 2016 presidential election, end of quote, including any links or coordination between the Russian government and the Trump campaign. In the following day, the president reached out to the Director of National Intelligence and leaders of the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, and the National Security Agency, NSA, to ask them what they could do to publicly dispel the suggestion that the president had any connection to the Russian election interference effort. The president also twice called Comey directly, notwithstanding guidance from McGahn to avoid direct contact with the Department of Justice. Comey had previously assured the president that the FBI was not investigating him personally, and the president asked Comey to, quote, lift the cloud, end of quote, of the Russian investigation by saying that publicly. If you are a patriot, you cannot not be outraged, because this is not a matter of being Democrat or being Republican, because the very reason that our democracy survives is because of that very structure of our government. The minute that you don't have any oversight, then at that point, the idea of democracy in the United States of America ceases to exist. So if you are a Republican and you think it's okay, then you too are no patriot. There is no other word of saying it. No matter what you hear people saying, trying to sugarcoat, trying to go around to explain it to you, that's all it means. If you are okay with what is currently going on with Donald Trump, with the Republican Party, you categorically are not a patriot. And no matter what you think of yourself, you are not a patriot. Because a patriot is someone who would give or who would make sacrifice sometimes of his or her own life, let alone sacrifice a political party in order to preserve the democracy, in order to preserve the Constitution, in order to preserve the rule of law. So if you cannot do that, don't talk to anyone about being patriot, because you are no patriot. The president's termination of Comey. On May 3rd, 2017, Comey testified in a congressional hearing, but declined to answer questions about whether the president was personally under investigation. Within days, the president decided to terminate Comey. The president insisted that the termination letter, which was written for public release, stated that Comey had informed the president that he was not under investigation. The day of the firing, the White House maintained that Comey's termination resulted from independent recommendation from the Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General that Comey should be discharged for mishandling the Hillary Clinton email investigation. But the president had decided to fire Comey before hearing from the Department of Justice. The day after firing Comey, the president told Russian officials that he had, quote, faced great pressure because of Russia, end of quote, which had been, quote, taken off, end of quote, by Comey's firing. The next day, the president acknowledged in a television interview that he was going to fire Comey regardless of the Department of Justice recommendation, and that when he, the quote, decided to just do it, end of quote, he was thinking that, quote, this thing with Trump and Russia is made up story, end of quote. In response to a question about whether he was angry with Comey about the Russian investigation, the president said, quote, as far as I'm concerned, I want that thing to be absolutely done properly, end of quote, adding that firing Comey, quote, might even lengthen out the investigation, end of quote. The appointment of a special counsel and efforts to remove him. On May 17, 2017, the acting Attorney General for the Russian investigation appointed a special counsel to conduct the investigation and related matters. The president reacted to news that a special counsel had been appointed by telling advisor that it was, quote, the end of his presidency, end of quote, and demanding that Sessions resign. Sessions submitted his resignation, but the president ultimately did not accept it. The president told aides that the special counsel had conflicts of interest and suggested that the special counsel therefore could not serve. The president's advisor told him the asserted conflicts were meritless and had already been considered by the Department of Justice. On June 14, 2017, the media reported that the special counsel office was investigating whether the president had obstructed justice. Press reports called this, quote, a major turning point, end of quote, in the investigation. While Comey had told the president he was not under investigation, following Comey's firing, the president now was under investigation. To this news, with a series of tweets criticizing the Department of Justice and the special counsel investigation. On June 17, 2017, the president called McGahn at home and directed him to call the acting attorney general and say that the special counsel had conflict of interest and must be removed. McGahn did not carry out the direction, however, deciding that he would resign rather than trigger what he regarded as a potential Saturday night massacre. Efforts to curtail the special counsel investigation. 2 days after directing McGahn to have the special counsel removed, the president made another attempt to affect the course of the Russia investigation. On June 19, 2017, the president met one-on-one in the Oval Office with his former campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, a trusted advisor outside the government, and dictated a message for Lewandowski to deliver to Sessions. The message said that Sessions should publicly announce that, notwithstanding his recusal from the Russia investigation, the investigation was, quote, very unfair, end of quote, to the president. the president had done nothing wrong and Sessions planned to meet with the special counsel and, quote, let him move forward with investigating election meddling for future election, end of quote. Lewandowski said he understood what the president wanted Sessions to do. 1 month later, in another private meeting with Lewandowski on July 19, 2019, the president asked about the status of his message for Sessions to limit the special counsel investigation to future election interference. Lewandowski told the president that the message would be delivered soon. Hours after the meeting, the president publicly criticized Sessions in an interview with the New York Times and then issued a series of tweets making it clear that Sessions' job was in jeopardy. Lewandowski did not want to deliver the president's message personally, so he asked senior White House official Rick Dearborn to deliver it to Sessions. Dearborn was uncomfortable with the task and did not follow through. Efforts to prevent disclosure of evidence. In the summer of 2017, the president learned that media outlets were asking questions about the June 9, 2016 meeting at Trump Tower between senior campaign officials, including Donald Trump Jr. and a Russian lawyer who was said to be offering damaging information about Hillary Clinton as, quote, part of Russia and its government support for Mr. Trump, end of quote. On several occasions, the president directed aides not to publicly disclose the email setting up the June 9th meeting, suggesting that the email would not leak and that the number of lawyers with access to them should be limited. Before the email became public, the president edited a press statement for Trump Jr. by deleting a line that acknowledged that the meeting was with, quote, an individual who Trump Jr. was told might have information helpful to the campaign, end of quote, and instead say only that the meeting was about adoption of Russian children. When the press asked questions about the president's involvement in Trump Jr.'s statement, the president's personal lawyer repeatedly denied the president had played any role.
The order appointing me special counsel authorized us to investigate actions that could obstruct the investigation. And we conducted that investigation and we kept the office of the acting attorney general apprised of the progress of our work. And as set forth in the report, after that investigation, if we had had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so.
Further efforts to have the Attorney General take control of the investigation. In early summer 2017, the president called Sessions at home and again asked him to reverse his recusal from the Russia investigation. Sessions did not reverse his recusal. In October of 2017, the president met privately with Sessions in the Oval Office and asked him to, quote, take a look, end of quote, at investigating Clinton. In December of 2017, shortly after Flynn pleaded guilty, pursuant to a cooperation agreement, the president met with Sessions in the Oval Office and suggested, according to notes taken by a senior advisor, that if Sessions unrecused and took back supervision of the Russia investigation, he would be a, quote, hero, end of quote. The president told Sessions, quote, I'm not going to do anything or direct you to do anything. I just want to be treated fairly, end of quote. In response, Sessions volunteered that he had never seen anything, quote, improper, end of quote, on the campaign, and told the president there was a, quote, whole new leadership team, end of quote, in place. He did not unrecuse. Efforts to have McGahn deny that the president had ordered him to have the special counsel removed. In early 2018, the press reported that the president had directed McGahn to have the special counsel removed in June of 2017 and that McGahn had threatened to resign rather than carry out the order. The president reacted to the news stories by directing White House officials to tell McGahn to dispute the story and created a record stating that he had not been ordered to have the special counsel removed. McGahn told those officials that the media reports were accurate in stating that the president had directed McGahn to have the special counsel removed. The president then met with McGahn in the Oval Office and again pressured him to deny the reports. In the same meeting, the president also asked McGahn why he had told the special counsel about the president's efforts to remove the special counsel and why McGahn took notes of his conversation with the president. McGahn refused to back away from what he remembered happening and perceived the president to be testing his mettle. Conduct towards Flynn and Manafort. After Flynn withdrew from a joint defense agreement with the president and began cooperating with the government, the president's personal counsel left a message for Flynn's attorney reminding them of the president's warm feeling toward Flynn, which he said, quote, still remains, end of quote, and asking for a, quote, heads up, end of quote, if Flynn knew, quote, information that implicates the president, end of quote. When Flynn's counsel reiterated that Flynn could no longer share information pursuant to a joint defense agreement, the president's personal counsel said he would make sure that the president knew that Flynn's action reflected, quote, hostility, end of quote, towards the president. During Manafort's prosecution, and when the jury in his criminal trial was deliberating, the president praised Manafort in public, said that Manafort was being treated unfairly, and declined to rule out a pardon. After Manafort was convicted, the president called Manafort, quote, a brave man, end of quote, for refusing to, quote, break, end of quote, and said that flipping almost ought to be outlawed. Conduct involving Michael Cohen.
The order appointing me special counsel authorized us to investigate actions that could obstruct the investigation. And we conducted that investigation, and we kept the office of the acting attorney general apprised of the progress of our work. And as set forth in the report after that investigation, if we had had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so.
It is a reminder that on July 17, 2019, just a few days away, Robert Mueller himself, the architect of the report, will be on Capitol Hill to talk about the report. Conduct involving Michael Cohen. The president's conduct towards Michael Cohen, a former Trump Organization executive, changed from praise for Cohen when he falsely minimized the president's involvement in the Trump Tower Moscow project to castigation of Cohen when he became a cooperating witness. From September 2015 to June 2016, Cohen had pursued the Trump Tower Moscow project on behalf of the Trump Organization and had briefed candidate Trump to advance toward on the project numerous times, including discussing whether Trump should travel to Russia to advance the deal. In 2017, Cohen provided false testimony to Congress about the project, including stating that he had only briefed Trump on the project 3 times and never discussed travel to Russia with him, in an effort to adhere to a party line that Cohen said was developed to minimize the president's connection to Russia. While preparing for his congressional testimony, Cohen had extensive discussion with the president's personal counsel, who, according to Cohen, said that Cohen should stay on message and not contradict the president. After the FBI searched Cohen's home and office in April of 2018, the president publicly asserted that Cohen would not flee, contacted him directly to tell him to stay strong, and privately passed messages of support to him. Cohen also discussed pardon with the president's personal counsel and believed that if he stayed on message, it would be taken care of. But after Cohen began cooperating with the government in the summer of 2018, the president publicly criticized him, calling him a rat, and suggested that his family had committed crime. This is the president of the United States that many Republicans continue to support as if he's such a great man. And this is the guy that, rightfully so, they cannot point to their children or their grandchildren as a role model. As this executive summary, Donald Trump is a criminal. In fact, his co-conspirators, Michael Cohen, is currently sitting in jail. And the only reason Donald Trump is not indicted, as set forth in the Mueller report, is because a sitting president cannot be indicted. And this is the individual you're proud of to be your president.
The order appointing me special counsel authorized us to investigate actions that could obstruct the investigation. And we conducted that investigation, and we kept the office of the acting attorney general apprised of the progress of our work. And as set forth in the report after that investigation, if we had had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so.
Overarching overarching factual issues. We did not make a traditional prosecution decision about these facts, but the evidence we obtained support several general statements about the president's conduct. Several features of the conduct we investigated distinguish it from typical obstruction of justice cases. First, the investigation concerned the president, and some of his actions, such as firing the FBI director, involved facially lawful acts within his Article 2 authority, which raises constitutional issues discussed below. At the same time, the president's position as the head of the executive branch provided him with unique and powerful means of influencing official proceedings, subordinate officers, and potential witnesses, all of which is relevant to a potential obstruction of justice analysis. Second, unlike cases in which a subject engages in obstruction of justice to cover up a crime, the evidence we obtained did not establish that the president was involved in an underlying crime related to Russian election interference, which is the sad part. Although the obstruction statute did not require proof of such a crime, the absence of that evidence affects the analysis of the president's intent and requires consideration of other possible motives for his conduct. Third, many of the president's acts directed at witnesses, including discouragement of cooperation with the government and suggestion of possible future pardon, took place in public view. That circumstance is unusual, but no principle of law excludes public act from the reach of the obstruction laws. If the likely effect of public act is to influence witnesses or alter their testimony, the harm to the justice system integrity is the same. Although the series of events we investigated involved discrete acts, the overall pattern of the president's conduct toward the investigation can shed light on the nature of the president's acts and the inferences that can be drawn about his intent. In particular, the action we investigated can be divided into two phases, reflecting a possible shift in the president's motives. The first phase covered the period from the president's first interaction with Comey through the president's firing of Comey. During that time, the president had been repeatedly told he was not personally under investigation. Soon after the firing of Comey and the appointment of the special counsel, however, the president became aware that his own conduct was being investigated in an obstruction of justice inquiry. At that point, the president engaged in a second phase of conduct involving public attack on the investigation, non-public efforts to control it, and efforts in both public and private to encourage witnesses not to cooperate with the investigation. Judgment about the nature of the president's motive during each phase would be informed by the totality of the evidence.
The order appointing me special counsel authorized us to investigate actions that could obstruct the investigation. And we conducted that investigation, and we kept the office of the acting attorney general apprised of the progress of our work. And as set forth in the report, after that investigation, if we had had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so.
I hope this presentation was of some use to you. If not, you already know what to do. Send us comment, criticism, suggestion. Let us know how to make it better. As I always say, it is not going anywhere. You might as well help make it better. If you should have a topic you would like us to talk about, let us know. We will research it, we will debate it right here on the Fourth Branch program, the place for common sense. In the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. See you tomorrow. Good day. That was an update through the prism of common sense. Join us again tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. for a full presentation. I am MD, host of the Fourth Branch program, the place for common sense. Send us comments, criticism, suggestion, or simply let us know how we're doing. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful afternoon. See you next time.
The Fourth Branch podcast is brought to you in collaboration with the People Branch publication, which can be found on the People Branch website, located at peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org website, in which you will find a number of very interesting articles. My name is Mike Duchesne, MD for short. I hope you have a great afternoon or a great evening, whichever it happens to be. Hopefully you can join me again next time for another interesting episode of this podcast. That was the Fourth Branch, live from New York. Good day.